to the Fusion Podcast. My name is Sam.
My name is Vicky.
In front of the sausage wall, as we know it. I rinsed it earlier. I thought it came with the house. Turns out she did it herself. So I
would like to give some context to this because the wall behind me has caused great controversy, now wider than the Fusion team. It used to be just within the Fusion team, but now we're talking about it nationally. This is what we've got to. So I'd like to give some background in 10 seconds.
We're international, fam.
Okay, brilliant. So internationally, people are thinking about the sausage wall. So in 10 seconds, I saw somebody do it on Pinterest. It looked brilliant on Pinterest. Personally, I love it. However, a certain Fusion team member did walk in, see the room and go, did you mean to do that or was that an accident? So there are mixed messages, but personally, I love it.
If you've listened to this podcast on your podcast client, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, whatever you use, this is a great opportunity for us to tell you that we also upload these to YouTube with our beautiful faces.
Yes.
So you can go and look at
walls as well.
Yes. So you can go and look at our faces and our walls as well for this upcoming season of the Fusion Podcast, Vicky, which is just terrifically exciting.
It is.
We've just kicked off chatting to the student worker at Bath Vineyard and one of her students. Vicky, what did we talk about?
Oh, it's brilliant. It was so encouraging. We're just basically talking about where does church go from here? We are on our way out of a global pandemic. Thank you, Jesus. And the church, I think nationally, has asked the question of what is the church and what do we do now that we get to go back to something that resembles some kind of normal? And how do we respond to that? So we heard from Jodie, who is a student worker at Bath Vineyard, and one of her students, Johnny, all about what God has done in the last year and how that impacts how you plan going forward. So it is very encouraging. Johnny is a student that challenges me in my faith, and I'm sure he'll do the same with you.
Okay, so we are here then with Jodie and Johnny to chat about what's going on in, and I'm going to say Bath. I know that you're not going to say it like I do, but I refuse to compromise my morals. So Jodie, do you want to introduce yourself to us all and also include the correct pronunciation of the word Bath?
Absolutely. So my name is Jodie and I am a student worker down in Bath, where I studied a number of years ago and came here for my undergrad doing sports science. Met Jesus in my third of 4 years, fell radically in love with him, and then got stuck in with the local church and just love students. So I spend most of my time hanging out with a bunch of absolute legends at the University of Bath, where Johnny is. I'll do his intro for him, and then Bath Spa as well, and a bunch of other colleges around the city. So generally just having a really great time down here in Bath. But Johnny, is that how you say it?
Yeah, I think I say it probably wrong both ways. I say sometimes Bath, but like with an F, and then sometimes Bath if I'm back home with Bristolians. So I'm both. But yeah, I'm Johnny. I'm a second year at University of Bath, doing physics. I'm one of Jodie's legends that she mentioned.
Nice.
And I've been a Christian for 6 years now. So I'm actually Jodie's older brother, if you think about it that way, which is so I'm like a senior, but she looks after the students together. And yeah, like I've fell in love with Jesus 5-6 years ago. I came to uni to kind of physics was an extra. I thought, well, like, what subject do they do best at school? And then I'll use that as an excuse to go to university, where you basically get thousands of young people who all want to try new stuff, and you're like, well, I know the God of the universe, so I'm going to go share that there if that's all right with everyone else. But yeah, that was the plan, and so far it's going all right.
Love that. Nice. So we've got Jodie and Johnny on because we want to know about some of the stuff they've been seeing happening at Vineyard Bath. And when we kind of had a little conversation about what we thought we could chat about today, Johnny revealed to us that he'd found the last kind of year and a bit, or at least certainly the last few months, amazing to help some people on his own journey as well, consider what it meant to walk with Jesus. So I want you to put yourself, I'm going to use Vicky for this. Vicky, I want you to transport yourself back to university. Okay.
I'm
So you're back in Portsmouth, right? Okay. What does church look like for you?
Oh, good question. So for me, it's kind of similar timescale to Johnny. I've been a Christian about 7 years, just over. And church for me at uni was the first church I ever went to. So it was a place that was full of all different ages of people, lots of students, but lots of other age demographics as well. It was a place of like regular gathering. Like there would always be Sundays, but then, you know, there were small groups, there were student nights, there's always something in the diary every week that I could go to. And it'd just be a time of fun as well. It was genuinely fun. So I think, yeah, there's 3 ways to describe what, as I'm transporting myself back now. That's what. Okay,
so all that gathering, keep thinking about it, all the kind of wonderful community that you found. I'm going to whip that out from under you.
Oh,
it's gone.
Gosh.
How do you feel now?
Instant anxiety.
Love to put you in that spot on the Fusion podcast. So we are thinking about the way that people have come to university. They've found a church. They've started coming along. Maybe they've been to church since they were a kid. They've grown up in the church. But all of a sudden, those routines, those rhythms they found themselves in of, I go to church on a Sunday, maybe there's a student meal or a student hangout after it. I go to my student small group in the week, and that's what church looks like for me. And then as soon as it's gone, you take it away for the pandemic, we're unable to gather in person. What challenges does that present to us? So we're going to have a little think about that from what we've sort of seen over the last few months. And then we're going to think ahead, because we're recording this now in April of 2021, and things are starting to scale back with the rollout of the vaccination program. And when time comes around for September, we'll probably be back to normal. So we need to think, what have we learned as student workers, as students in this time, and how are we going to apply it to our ministry going forward? So Johnny, we'll start with you, mate. What did you see amongst your fellow students as soon as that rhythm, that routine of church and small group sort of ceased to exist in the way that people were used to it? How did students, maybe even how did you respond to it?
Yeah, amazing. I guess zipping back over a year now, I remember like it happening, the kind of first lockdown being announced, being at home, kind of doing our first student small group on Zoom, and like even just on my own, I was praying and I was asking God, like, what is this for? And not that God had done it, but God, like, what are you going to do now? Because if I knew anything from like Bible history, you look at when the church comes under pressure or there's big change, God uses it to do incredible things. And so I was like, God, what's the plan? Like, what are we doing? And I just felt him nudging me and saying to me and a couple of my close friends who were praying as well, and just saying, this is going to be a time when we, when people who were kind of floating by in faith and kind of coming along to church every week and doing okay, are suddenly going to lose all that, and they're going to go, my choice now is, number one, this is my chance to sneak off now. Like, no one's going to notice if I don't come to church anymore, I can go. Or number two, oh my goodness, I have to put the effort in now to like confront my faith, and I have to go and know Jesus for myself. And I have to learn to, as hard as it is, I have to learn to genuinely be able to read the Bible, pray, fast, and be still, and do all of these things without people to do it for me. And I guess everything I've seen this year has been that played out, especially among our students, which has been lovely. It's been so good.
Interesting, nice. So So that's kind of like on the ground, and that's what students have been experiencing. So Jodie, what about you? So as student worker, thinking about, these are the students who are at your church, how did you react to that kind of loss of routine?
Man, it is nuts reflecting back on this, isn't it? Like, absolutely bonkers. I think initially I was so shocked at the literal mass exodus from the city. Like, all of a sudden we went from having 40, 50 students gathering with us to like none, literally no one in the city anymore. And I was like, what is happening? And I think initially there was a moment with everyone that I was kind of in contact with where it's like, okay, we need to take stock right now. Like, are people okay? Like, there's this massive shake and it's like, okay, just still for a moment. And then you kind of started to see like, oh my word, I think acknowledging that either there were going to be a bunch of people that really struggled with this. And so let's put every Zoom meeting in ever. Let's do student nights on Zoom. Let's do Bible studies. Let's do prayer mornings. Let's make the most of this. And for a while that was, it's fantastic and served a great purpose. And then obviously I'm sure most of us have experienced the old Zoom fatigue at some point across the year and last year and a bit. But I think there was this recognition that for a bunch of people, there was going to be a choice, like Johnny was saying, either now I choose to walk with Jesus or I don't. And that was a hard thing to let go of control of like knowing that I couldn't be the one doing the saving. Like, I could put all of the programs in place, we could disciple people well, but at the end of the day, like, this is a choice that these students are going to make. And that was difficult for me to let go of that control. Like, the thought of people walking away from faith, like, absolutely ruined me. But also I think with me, there was this, I would say that I am an evangelist. And so there was this like innate need of like, I have a hope. We have a hope. Like, this is the time where we share it. And we saw the students especially like drive that in church. We went straight on to online alphas and people sharing their faith on Instagram, people offering to reach out to students around them, to peers, to housemates. We saw people come towards us for the first time and to find community even online. And for me, that was a key part of like, we always have been, I think, really a church where the students are driving some of these forces of reaching their friends and kind of demonstrating that. And so to see them really take hold of that, to take hold of their faith individually, but also be like, I have this hope, you need to hear it, and be very active in that, was like, I mean, that brought me great joy. So it was pretty wild time.
Brilliant. So good. So I guess like what we want to think now then is, if we're looking at, how we've navigated our way through the last year and a bit, and we're in a position now where we're starting to kind of get back to normal. What are you thinking? Like, particularly, I want to go to you again, Johnny, and think, how are you going to apply some of the lessons you've learned from having, been walking with people who've been like, do I actually love Jesus, or did I just love church? Did I just love going to something on a Sunday evening and a Wednesday night? How are you going to continue to take some of the stuff you've learned from that process and apply it now that we're back in person and I'm meeting with our small groups maybe?
Yeah, it's a good question. And in some ways, I wish I had a clear picture of what church could look like going forward. Because I guess that's the question, isn't it, really? It's what does Jesus' body, what does the church look like as we go forward? I think to answer like what it should look like, looking at what I've seen that's been amazing in this last year, I'll get a little example would be, I'm going to shout him out here. He's my best friend at uni. He's a boy called Matt Harbour. He's lovely, really good lad. I'll get him to listen to this now that I've named him. But he was one of those people who over the lockdown discovered like a genuineness and a richness in his faith that he'd not found before. And he found it not because there was big events, but he found it because he had space to wrestle and quietness and difficult periods with which to come to God, and almost like Jesus uses the difficult parts in our life to discipline us and to change us and kind of root out some of the bad habits and bad attitudes we have that sneak under the radar. And so me and him, since lockdowns allowed you to do like one-on-one walks with each other, we've walked to Lidl together to buy a toffee yum yum almost every day since since about January, which sounds tiny, but there's not many people in the world that I would spend every single day at least half an hour with. But in that we could not just share the kind of the high church moment, or even the midweek Bible group where we come and tell each other how well we're doing in faith, or even how badly, but sharing the genuine, real averageness of lots of life. Sometimes we'd walk and honestly have nothing to talk about. But what it meant is that as we walked, I just got to be myself and follow Jesus and share what I was doing, not intentionally, but just naturally. And then one day he just popped me a message and just said, "Oh, hey Johnny, I've been, all of this space and time has given me time for God to speak, and I've realised that I'm massively struggling in my walk with Jesus, and I don't know what I'm doing." And this is a guy who last year was his first year as well. He's been leading worship at our church for ages, massively involved. He'll say this, talks a great game, but he just suddenly went, "I don't know what I'm doing." And he said to me, "Johnny, can we just meet tomorrow and properly read the Bible?" And I said, "Yeah." And I had a little cry and thought, this is good. And so I guess that kind of friendship that is like an iron sharpens iron friendship. That's a real classic verse from Proverbs, isn't it? But a kind of friendship where you can't just rock up and share your best bits or unload your worst bits, but you can just be absolutely yourself, and know that they're gonna ask you difficult questions and they're gonna invite Jesus into it. And I think, again, so that's what I've seen that's been amazing. And I guess in terms of future, it's hard, isn't it? Because you're thinking, well, kind of, you might be hearing that thinking, I'm doing that anyway. But I guess it's bringing that to church, and bringing that to the every other day, where I don't go, okay, it's not my church time now, so I'll just do me. But still thinking, so whether we're on a Thursday or a Friday, still thinking, okay, I'm part of a family here. So I need to be praying for my brothers and sisters. I need to be checking in on them. If possible, like if for a student, if I'm going on a night out somewhere and it's just me and my team, it's going, one, I grab a brother to come with me or a sister. That's what I think I want to see become more of a thing.
Nice one. So what about you then, Jake?
Good.
So like we were thinking about strengthening in the struggle, and that's a cracking example of how it's worked in lockdown for Johnny and Matt. But from your perspective then, as a student worker, that isn't always easy, is it? To kind of always, I suppose, allow our students to be strengthened in the struggle. I think there's a kind of a tendency, and I say this as a student worker myself, to want to kind of helicopter like faith parent these students and just sort of be involved at every single hour that we can be. So how do you kind of then approach the challenge of how involved am I in their lives as I help them through their struggle?
That's a big question.
Good question.
I am in the real privileged position at the moment, I think, where a lot of the students still like me. They still like hanging out with me, or at least they pretend to. And so I've been learning a lot of kind of around what discipleship looks like for myself, in terms of like not having this oversight or like trying to pull strings or just create space where they can be. More like, how do I actually just be friends with these people? Like if we are taking like Jesus as a model of discipleship, and him just walking with people, much as like Johnny shared here. Like, how am I doing that? How am I creating genuine friendships with a bunch of the students that I'm hanging out with a lot? And trying to like include them in all areas of my life, of my walk with Jesus. Which I think is easier sometimes said than done, like in terms of figuring out healthy boundaries and, you know, what else am I spending my time with, and but I think that for me that it's been something here as a student worker where I'm like, I really love these guys, and I genuinely want to serve them. I want to be with them. I want to be friends with them, and I think that love has driven me into awkwardly making them hang out with me all the time. And so if I were to look at how much I'm involved with some of their lives, like for a bunch of them, it's quite a lot. And really enjoying that. So yeah, getting alongside them as much as I can to walk with them is a real joy. And I've seen them, especially when it's only one-on-one, like it's then we've had no chance to kind of do mass gatherings where it's like me holding a bunch of students in the room, or you know, that kind of thing. It has to be one-on-one walks and really get to know them. So that's been a real joy of this season, and like that is something I'd love to see happen outside of this time.
Can I say, Jodie's been modest again, but she's been fantastic at that, really good. She said awkwardly making students hang out with her. Her banter is a bit awkward, but that is actually so far from the truth. Like, if I'm genuinely, Jodie, if I'm describing you to people, I'm like, oh, this is my friend Jodie. Oh, sorry, she's also my student worker from church, and then I have to explain what that is. But yeah, no, you're fantastic at that. And I think something on discipleship me and Jodie have actually talked about together a little bit. That I think maybe, I don't know, God kind of spoke to me really clearly about it a few months back. Was that in the Gospels, when Jesus called his disciples, he said, come and follow me. And then he just took them on a journey, and he just, you know, went around and started preaching and started healing people and doing miracles. And then as he went, things would happen, and he'd sit down with his disciples and he'd explain them. He'd invite them to do it with them. What he didn't do is he didn't, when Simon Peter got down on his knees and said, like, Jesus, I'm not worthy, Jesus didn't take him aside, get a coffee with him and go, let me hear all of your problems, Peter. Oh, great. Let's work through all of those. Let's hear everything. Let's sort you out a Bible plan and a prayer habit. Great. Here's a Christian book I'm reading. And now let's we'll meet again next week. And then eventually we'll work you up to the point where you can do some stuff. Yeah. Like, it just didn't happen. Jesus just said, come with me and walk. And the disciples grew on the road. Like, they grew as they went. And that's been something, yeah, Jodie's been so good at this year, especially, has just been saying, just come live with me. So she did it last year as well, to be fair, pre-COVID. Rather than saying, do you want to get a coffee and let's talk about your life, she'd go, I'm on campus sharing the gospel with some students, do you want to come? And all of our students would go, yeah. And all panic and come with her. So, yeah,
you're lovely, and I will give you that tenner later, Johnny.
Bang. I want to Vicky here then, because like Vix, you've got like slightly unique kind of perspective then, because you're not a student, you're not a student worker, but you do love students and you spend a lot of time with them. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
So kind of how do you view that then? The kind of how am I interacting personally with maybe just a picture in your mind a student who you've met with quite a bit? How are you meeting with them? Does it look like a kind of, 2-hour therapy sessions for free where you buy them a coffee? Or maybe kind of like, I'm guessing it's not that, but what does it actually look like?
Which, by the way, sometimes mine do. Like, sometimes it is to sit down and coffee.
Good question. So, wow, if anyone who knows me knows I'm a massive advocate for coffee shops. So you will often find me, when I can, in a coffee shop with a student. However, I also realise that we don't have tons of students in our church. We have probably regularly maybe around 25 students. but that's still, although I'm not a student worker, I am involved with them, and I'm kind of the big sister to them. So I can't take on responsibility pastorally for 25 students, let alone any more, which we're obviously hoping for. So our main priority, when the rule of 6 was introduced, our main priority was getting them into small groups. And the small groups they have 4 students in each small group, and they're led by older people in the church. So it's a slightly different way of doing it, intergenerational, but it means that they're all being pastorally supported. But these older people in the church are gold. Like, they are all like evangelists. A lot of them are pastors as well. So they just like love well, but also challenge really well. So what I've been doing is basically keeping in tabs with those people who are older than me and asking in how they're doing. So they've been really doing the more one-to-one check-ins with their 4, and I have my 4 as well, which has been really life-giving, and they're the ones that we've kind of gone for a bit more coffee with. And also socials, like, I don't think can't underestimate the importance of fun. Like, it's so crucial. We had a Zoom social the other day. We haven't done Zoom socials for months because everyone was zoomed out, but we did a big Taskmaster Zoom social, and that was fun. It's just a lot of laughs, you know, isn't it? Like, so that's kind of how I've been keeping tabs. I know that a lot of the families in our church have been doing roast dinners and inviting them around to their garden. It's just so nice, isn't it, to do that kind of stuff. But, yeah.
Guys, one of my special skills, I've got many special skills, but one of my special skills is if I'm ever doing a sermon, just like taking a body of text and then going bang, 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 3 points, okay? So what I've done, I've got 3 points for us that we are going to apply to church moving forward, that we've learned over the last few months, okay? So as soon as that rug was whipped out from underneath our students of the routine of what it means to be church, having to reconsider, reevaluate all of it, here's what we're going to take forward. All right, you ready? Number 1, we're going to proclaim hope urgently.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So you said it at the start, Jodie. You were like,
let's go.
They picked something up. They realised something. They were like, yeah, we've got this hope. We can proclaim this. And then the flipping UK blessing happened, and everyone was like, I know, and it was being shared everywhere. So there we go. That's a great start. We are proclaiming hope urgently in our student ministries moving forward. That's something we've learned. Another thing we've learned: strength from the struggle. You feeling me? Johnny, you said it best. You with your story with Matt, who was like, hey man, just really struggling finding this hard at the moment. Meeting the people that we love in that moment where they're like, I'm still working this out, and helping them to strengthen in their relationship with Jesus in the midst of the struggle. That's something else I think we've learned. Got it. And Johnny, you said it, and I couldn't say it better myself. You've got to give them the space. I've seen people who have struggled with their faith at university, both when I was a student and since I've been a student worker. And the thing you've always got to give them is the space. And you've got to trust that God isn't going to let them get out of his grasp. So we're drawing strength from the struggle. Number 3, we are prioritizing the personal. Alliteration. I know.
Oh, you've nailed these 3 points.
Okay. So Jodie, again, you said it. Just bang on. Like, how am I meeting with students? What am I doing? Am I, are we just meeting up and we're ticking all these things off so I can say I've done it, or am I actually just inviting them into what it is I'm doing? Am I like sharing the gospel with these people and I want to invite my students to come along with me? Am I going to help out at this food bank and I can just invite my students to come along with me? How can we as student workers, I'm thinking now, how can we invite our students to just do the bits of life and discipleship that we find ourselves doing? And that's a challenge then for students as well. People like you, Johnny, man, you've got to take Jodie to task. You've got to keep her honest. You've got to keep saying,
he does.
You've got to keep saying, hey, I want to be involved with that journey that you're currently on. How's that sound?
Oh boy, it's big stuff.
Good three.
Big stuff.
I like that.
It's big stuff, but I think we can do it. As student ministries, people who are hearing this, I think, and the beauty is that we'll have so many more like things that we could learn from the last few months. And people who are listening to this, you might be from a church somewhere else in the UK or even abroad, and you'll be thinking to yourself, actually, you know, we've learned this as well, and that's something we're going to make sure that we apply when things kick off again in earnest. So, what do we reckon? Have we got anything else that you guys at Bath Vineyard, that Vicky used, anything we want to throw out there to be like, here's just like a little supplement, a little multivitamin that's going to keep our ministries thriving as they get back to normal? Anything else? Chuck it out there.
Good
Man,
question. I would say I would challenge the phrase of get back to normal. A lot of us were struggling last year before the pandemic. A lot of people were struggling then, and actually we're presented with an opportunity to redefine student work again. We've redefined it in the last year, and we've redefined it. We've been creative, but we've been limited, and it's not our fault, but we've been limited. Whereas this year coming up, we won't have those limits anymore. So there may be dreams and ideas that have come up in the last year where you thought, like, that's a great idea, but we just can't do that at the moment. Now's the time to create that. So I think give yourself space to, you know, we had that National Day of Reflection, and we've had plenty of opportunities to reflect on the last year. But I think give yourself a day, whether it's by yourself, is your team, whoever it is, have a day like a retreat day where you reflect, but then you dream big for what's ahead with the limits gone. So that would be my advice to how to move forward.
Love that.
Yeah.
What else? How else?
Piggybacking straight on that is the creativity that Vicky was sharing there. Like, I mean, students, I've seen people sharing their faith or reaching out in ways that I just couldn't even imagine. Like we had worship evenings on Instagram, we had devotionals going up, we had personal stories, we had online chess tournaments, we've had honestly, it's been a wild time. And then as the Rules of Six have opened, one of the amazing students, her name's Holly, actually Johnny's girlfriend, who as soon as the sixes were allowed back, she found herself an event shelter, a big gazebo, and every night that week invited 5 other people in to host them, to share food over a table with them and just do life with them. And I think there's this hunger, and I think we can start fighting against this, like, you know, the kind of the gathered environment's been taken away, and it's been so important that we continue to figure out what faith looks like without those gathered environments. But I also think, like, let's not fight the fact that people love to be in spaces together. And so where we can be creative and find opportunities to invite people in or to gather together as family to share food, to get creative with the ways that we're doing this, I am seriously excited for what is going to happen just as soon as we're allowed more than 6 together in one space. I think it's going to be wild.
Brilliant. Johnny, what about you, mate?
Shout out my parents for providing that gazebo as well. Yeah, I think I've sort of iterated it already, but not hiding away from the struggle and going through it, I think is something that I would almost encourage people to push into and to dig deeper into. In that, Jesus never promised it would be easy. In fact, he said, like, expect, like, in this world you will have trouble, but don't fear, I've overcome the world. And the church in Acts grew amid struggle. And yet their testimony, when you read the New Testament, is, we are crushed but not destroyed. We're like beat down but not in despair. It's like this, we're going through this awful struggle, but through it we see a Jesus and a hope that is genuinely worth the pain. And I think this year what's been amazing is that I've seen students realize that Jesus is worth persevering for, in a way that they've not had to persevere before. And then you think, I'm going to be quoting the Bible for a bit, please stop me. like perseverance gives, like, let perseverance finish its work, right? Because perseverance produces character, and then character hope. And I'm really seeing that. And I guess in a way I've been fed up of seeing Christians, especially around my age, kind of be coming to church and be coming to small groups and Bible studies and saying lots of good things, and then suddenly out of nowhere hitting a point where they go, oh, I'm not sure I believe this.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, how on earth have you slipped through the net? Like, how has nobody picked up on that? Whereas now, I think, at least what I'm seeing around us anyway, is it's going to get harder to slip through that net at the moment, because we're all learning to persevere through hard stuff. And we know that when we do that, the church grows, both up and out, if that makes sense. And so, yeah, I'd say, so when it gets difficult, let's not just hide away and comfort each other, but let's also encourage each other through it.
Hang on, mate.
And rejoice.
Amen. So good. Hopefully, this is the mic drop from Johnny. Hopefully, this has helped some student workers to think about what in their ministry they've noticed over the last few months and what they want to take forward now as we start to meet in person again. So we're just about out of time, but we want to end by praying for all of you guys who've been listening to this. So Jodie, would you just pray for us as we start to consider some of the stuff that we've talked about today and how we're going to apply it in our churches?
Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah, Jesus, we just thank you so much for this time together. We thank you for every single person that is listening, be it student worker, or wider. Jesus, we thank you that you are still at work. You are in the midst of all of this, that you are growing us individually as our ministries, as our churches, that you are wanting to do a good thing with this. And so, Father, I pray that we wouldn't just skip past this time. I pray that we wouldn't look back on this time with an air of resentment, but actually we would learn from this, we would grow from it, we would hear and be attentive to your voice and what you want to do and carry forward into this next season. And so I pray for all of us that we would have soft hearts, open ears, and a real willingness to step into this next season exactly how you want us to. And so, God, just use us for your glory. Amen.
Amen. Jodie and Johnny, thank you so much for joining us and telling us about some of the great stuff that's been happening at Bath Vineyard.
Bath. Well done, Sam.
I know over the course of the podcast, you've won me over. So thanks so much for joining us, and me and Vicky will see the rest of you on the next episode.